really mean spiritually preparing. Obviously, people got to do some practical things. We'll talk about making sure that you have your Shalach Manos, and I think people spoke about the halachas already, so I'm not going to talk about that. So there's some practical things. Maybe you got to buy some wine, buy some snacks, prepare some money. I'm going to talk a bit more from like a spiritual perspective. So preparing means recognizing and really learning about Purim as much as you can. Anything over the next 48 hours that you could spend learning about Purim, understanding about Purim, learning divrei Torah about Purim is in your absolute 100% best interest. It will enhance your Purim in an incredible way. In one aspect specifically, besides giving you enlightenment and understanding, but the Gemara says is that the day of Purim is a day of accepting the Torah out of love. When the Jewish people first were in the desert and they received the Torah and they accepted it the first time, it was not considered a full acceptance of the Torah. There was something lacking. To a certain extent, that acceptance of the Torah was forced because it wasn't fully out of their free will. The Jewish people were just redeemed from slavery. They had completely lost in the desert. They witnessed these wild and amazing miracles. Like no human being almost like would be capable of not accepting the Torah. After witnessing God's presence at Sinai, it was just like, it was impossible not to. There was a certain amount of free will that was lacking in their decision to accept the Torah. That lingered in the Jewish spiritual psyche that held back the Jewish people from really achieving everything that they could until Purim. During the holiday of Purim, the Jewish people collectively accepted the Torah for the first time out of complete love. There was no open miracles, no God's presence, booming voice at Sinai. They were able to appreciate and to love God from a place of free will, and from that place, completely out of their own love and free will, recognized God and accepted His Torah. And this power cycles every single year and comes up on Purim. And a big part of what I'm suggesting is to learn so much about Purim, to learn as much as possible leading up to Purim, is so that you can really enter Purim and experience this Kabbalah Torah, accepting the Torah out of love. Practically speaking, I recommend everybody between now and Thursday night have prepared for themselves 1 or 2 clear Dvar Torahs about Purim that you'll be able to share with other people. You'll be able to share at your Purim feast. So do some research, read some books, go on to Aish.com. The internet's filled with Torah insights on Purim, and find one that really speaks to you. An insight on the Megillah, or about the mitzvahs, or about what Purim represents, and make it yours. Get it clear in your mind, write it out, prepare it, so that you have kind of in your pocket, ready to go Purim Dvar Torah 1 or 2, very important practical advice, especially when we say that during Purim, there are some people that drink more than they do on a regular day. And for those that do, they also, what's going to come out? So someone yesterday mentioned, it's probably going to come out, I'm going to call my ex-girlfriend, right? Where's Jake Nemeth? But that's not what we want. That's not what we're looking for this Purim. We're looking for other things to come out if and when we drink over Purim, and the more that a person has the Torah ideas on his mind, Purim ideas on his mind, that's the thing that's going to come out over Purim. That's the thing that you're going to be talking about, and those are things going to lift you up and elevate your Purim experience. Okay, we're going to go through the day, try to explain some certain ways to spiritually connect to the different aspects of the day of Purim. But first we hear from my new friend named Daniel. So at the very end of the Megillah, when you read it, so you'll see that there's 2 words at the end of the Megillah story where it says kimu v'kiblu, that basically the Jewish people accepted, and then it goes on in the next verse to say that they added mitzvot. They accepted upon themselves to then go and to also add new mitzvahs. The Purim feast that we do every year, the reading the Purim Megillah every year, the Shalach Manos, Matanos Levionim. And you see from this idea that the sages say is that if the Jewish people were accepting to do even more mitzvot than the mitzvot that were already given, you see that they're clearly excited, they're clearly kind of loved, they want to accept upon themselves more, they want to do more, and that was a reacceptance of all the mitzvahs underneath that as well. The Okay, here in Aish Torah we have a thing called Yeshivas Mordechai Atzadik. What does that mean? So the Gemara tells us is that when Haman came to always mess with Mordechai, so he always found Mordechai teaching Gemara and Mishnah to students. And the Gemara says is that in the merit of that Torah learning that Mordechai was doing with his students was a merit why the Jewish people were saved during the times of Purim. So to recall that, to tap into that idea that specific learning Torah around Purim has a very, very big power of salvation, we have something in our yeshiva called the Yeshivas Mordechai Atzadik. 2 extra times where students are encouraged to learn whatever they want in any language in the base medrash. There's actually, you may have seen signs for it, a certain financial incentive to encourage people. Where the time, sometimes Purim, there's so many other things to do and things to have fun, people will neglect this extra learning. But there's this special learning thing. You can get the exact schedule. I'm sure it's been mentioned already. There's like an hour before Purim. There's an hour Purim night. There's an hour Purim day, Thursday night and Friday. And people who do that get incentive. And you get to tap into this idea of learning Torah on Purim brings salvation. There are a lot of people, how are you able to give out money incentive? There are a lot of people who yearn to sponsor students learning Torah specifically on Purim because of the tremendous Yeshua, the tremendous salvation and blessing that it brings. And that's why we're able to find people that wanted to donate money towards that we're able to give to all the students who will be learning during that time. Okay, Purim is a time of big simcha. They say this is the biggest holiday of simcha, of rejoicing, of all the holidays. So therefore, practical thing, the Gemara says, Mikabel kol adna b'sever panim yafos. A person should always greet people with a happy countenance, a smiling face. So this is really true all the time. On Purim, I would suggest make this one of your avodas. I'm going to try to smile every person I meet over the course of Purim with a huge, great feeling of simcha. But I really think it's even more than that. A person should strive on Purim, specifically on Purim, to be like smiling like as much as possible, even if you're not meeting anybody. There's no one in front of your face. Try to smile and feel simcha 24 hours from the beginning of Purim till the end of Purim. Smile while you sleep. Just don't stop. What's the idea over here? So one of the ideas of Purim is the concept of Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing else but God. There's nothing else but God's goodness. Everything in this world, even the bad, even the pain. I'm not going to get into this idea. I'm hoping someone spoke about it already. But the idea is that even the painful and difficult things in our lives are all part of a divine purpose that we can't perceive in a world of das, in a rational world of understanding. There's plenty of things. I look at the world, I see pain and suffering, and I will tell you, it hurts me bad. And I don't understand it. I don't understand if it's part of any good purpose. But there's another part of me, and that's what I do when we drink on Purim. My job is not to talk about drinking, but ad lo yada, we drink until we're past das. We realize that there's a certain reality beyond our observant, rational reality that we see and we perceive and we understand. There's something way beyond that. There's a God running the world, a God who's all good, and that everything happens in this world is part of that good purpose, even though it doesn't make sense to my rational das, my rational brain, and doesn't make sense to the eyes that I see, with the eyes that I see. So this idea of Ein Od Milvado, there's nothing but Hashem's goodness. It's something that we tap into on Purim. It's something that the Purim story clues us into when all the bad starts turning into good. It gives us a glimpse of that idea. And so therefore, when a person goes through Purim, even when bad things happen to you on Purim, something goes not as planned, your Shalach Manos falls all over the floor, someone else takes your spot in the base medrash, someone's costume is better than yours, whatever it is that starts to make a person feel bad, comes with a tova. Everything's for the good. Ein Od Milvado. On Purim, when something bad, annoying, frustrating starts to happen to you, catch yourself and smile. And start rejoicing that something bad is happening to you. And you can tap into this power on Purim Ein Od Milvado. Try to be happy all 24 hours. When things go wrong, don't do this the rest of the year. But on Purim, sing and dance. It goes wrong. Someone just, throws up all over my floor of the Purim Suda. This is amazing. Baruch Hashem. Wonderful. This is amazing. Einon Movado, Gamzu Tova. Now, this is not the perspective that we live with the rest of the year. But on Purim, I really believe that if you could tap into this perspective, it has an impact on the rest of the year. It allows you to be able to process in a more better and healthy way the bad and difficult things that you have in your life when you're able to tap into the Einon Movado idea on Purim. Sing and dance in the streets as much as possible. This is the content of Simcha on Purim. Okay, any questions? So Tefillah, next. So we're now at Purim night. It's Thursday night. We show up in the Beis Medrash. We may have a costume on. I'll talk about costumes in a second, but we have to show up at Mariv, Tefillah. So Rabbi Rossman already mentioned on Shabbos the special power of Tefillah on Purim. Just like the miracles and salvation happen through the Jewish people's prayers, our prayers on Purim are incredibly powerful to bring salvation to ourselves and to the lives of other people. So, show up for those tefillahs and prepare for those tefillahs and daven with as much personal passion as you possibly can. Practical caveat for Thursday night, right after the Mariv davening is the Megillah reading. And I've seen this before. Sometimes a person got so inspired by Rabbi Elsant shmooze about davening, so he starts davening with so much kavanah, completely in his own world, and then they start reading the Megillah, and this guy's still in a different sphere of universe, talking to Hashem, and he missed out on the Megillah reading. It's right after, so don't daven too long for Thursday night, but do make that tefillah as long as possible. But tefillah is not just in the Beis Medrash, not just during Shema Esrei. Tefillah is your own words from your own heart. And we have the most amazing, unbelievable opportunity to be right here. I highly encourage, practical tip number whatever we're up to, is over Purim, maybe it's at night before you go to sleep, maybe it's, have some time here or there, go to the kotel and daven to Hashem in your own words. Really, really passionately. Ask for the things that are important for you in your own words at the kotel. You have the opportunity that 99% of the Jewish world does not have. Make sure to take advantage of this Purim and make sure that you give yourself some time to pray at the kotel over Purim in your own words. Talk to Hashem in your own words. No prayer books. Okay, Megillah reading. What's a person supposed to do during the Megillah reading? Open the Megillah. Follow along in English, in Hebrew. You don't have to follow along every Hebrew word because you're hearing it. You could read along in the English. That's completely fine. What should you be thinking about? In the back of your mind during the Megillah reading, you should just be thinking about Hashem. Why? The Megillah is called Megillat Esther. And the Gemara said Megillat Esther, which means the scroll of Esther, is the same root letters as the words Megaleh Hester, which means to reveal things that are hidden. And the whole idea of Purim, I'm sure you're starting to hear this more than once right now, it's about the idea of revealing things that are hidden. Specifically, the Megillah reveals Hashem's hidden hand in all of existence. That even though the name of Hashem is not present once in the Megillah, there's no mention of Hashem, there's no explicit open miracles in the Megillah, but the story is supposed to reveal Hashem. So when we are reading the Megillah, and we are not reading the words of Hashem, the name of Hashem, and we're not reading about any open miracles, but we're thinking Hashem. We're saying Hashem is behind the scenes of this story. This is exactly the purpose of what the holiday is supposed to do, to reveal Hashem's hiddenness in this world. And that's really what the whole world is about. The Hebrew word for world, what is this? Kol ha Olam. Olam, the Maharal says, the same letters as the word Ne'elam, which means hidden. The world is created to hide Hashem purposely, because Hashem wants you to discover Him. He doesn't want to spoon feed you emunah. He wants you to have strong, sophisticated emunah and belief in God. So therefore, God says, I'm going to create a world where you can choose to discover me and find me, or you can choose to miss me. It's your choice. And that way, whether or not you invest the energies and powers to discover Hashem is going to make it your decision. It's going to make it something that's yours. Your emunah will be sophisticated and real and yours if you choose to get it. This is what the world's all about, revealing Hashem where He is hidden in the world. And this is the paradigm for this is Purim, and that's why when a Purim reads the Megillah, you kind of access this power by, I'm reading words, there's no presence of Hashem, but all I'm thinking about is Hashem. I'm revealing through my thoughts Hashem's presence in the story, and that's what a person should do while reading the Megillah. After the Megillah, there'll be amazing singing and dancing in the Beis Medrash. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says that when a person sings and dances on Purim, it can sweeten all of the negative judgments up in heaven. I don't know what that means, but it sounds really sweet. So, and it's, I'm going to share, so I share it with you. But so you sing and dance, and it should bring a lot of blessing. I personally believe when a person thinks about dance, it shouldn't just be like, lightheadedness and just like, you should be thinking about Hashem. Think about Hashem while you dance. Think about all this simcha is the simcha of Hashem. All of this dancing and rejoicing together, just think about Hashem. When you dance, one of the Purim themes is achdus and unity. Think about, look at all these people I'm dancing with. I love them all. See a guy there that you don't like? Dance with him. Give him a big hug. I'm so happy to be here with you. Grab his hand, pull him in. You see a guy on the outside of the circle, come and join us, be a part of it. Use the dancing as an opportunity to create more achdus, to bring more people in and allow you a little bit to break out of your, sometimes maybe you have a grudge with this guy, you don't like this guy. Reach out to him, dance with him, have a good time with him, and when you're dancing, think about Hashem. Okay, costumes. So how to use costumes in a spiritual way over Purim. So number one is, first of all, when you see someone dressed up. So you'll see someone dressed up, and it might be a guy who maybe he's been mean to you, he's said negative comments to you, maybe he hurt your feelings, maybe he did something bad to you, maybe he did something inappropriate to you. You see him in his costume, and the way that you're supposed to process that is, look at this guy. The silly parts about this guy are on the outside. That's not really him. It's true, this guy may have hurt me, this guy may have done something wrong to me, but that's not the real him. Those sillier parts of him are external, outside. Underneath, this guy is a pure and holy neshama. He's really good. Allow yourself to drop that grudge, to really embrace him for who he really is, and realize that the things that he did wrong to you were external parts of him and not the real him. That's how people should interact with others wearing costumes. Those who wear costumes themselves, so I think there's two ways. There's an important conclusion at the end we'll get to, but there's two ways I think for people to use that in a powerful spiritual way. Some people dress up specifically in a way to help bring out from them something that is hidden, something that they aren't successful to bring out, a part of their personality, a certain trait, a certain mitzvah that they aren't able always to access and bring out, even though they believe and even though they want, but for some reason not able to act that way, a certain character trait that they find themselves too scared to do and to stretch. So people can use their costume as a way to try to bring out to the outside, into the world of asiyah, the world of action, those character traits that they sometimes have difficulty bringing out. Alternatively, some people like to dress up in a way where what they wear represents or reminds them of kind of the silly parts of them that they want to show are external. This is not the real me. The way that I act when I do this, or when I do this, or when I'm like this, or this part of my character. And they reflect that in some creative way in their costume, and they're trying to display and tell themselves and understand and identify that part is not really me. That's not who I really am. I'm really a pure and amazing neshama deep down. And that's another way to use costumes. Okay. Practical thing, now we're still at night, is don't get drunk at night. You could drink at night, help to enjoy and to be happy, but don't get drunk. If you get drunk in a way that's going to make it hard to get up in the morning, or even if you do get up in the morning, you're going to be groggy and drowsy, So then in the morning, you're going to miss out on the power of davening in the morning. You're going to miss out on the mitzvah of Megillah that's read in the morning. Those are very, very important parts of Purim that you don't want to miss out. I personally try, I'm not saying anyone should do this, I'm just sharing, is that I try to daven with the sunrise on Purim morning because that's the best, most powerful davening, and I want to tap into that. It's a special opportunity. I don't think anyone should feel pressured to do that, but I'm just trying to say, you want to take advantage of your davening on Purim. So make sure not to get drunk at night. There's no mitzvah to drink at night. It's obviously, a fun thing to do, but there's no mitzvah. The only mitzvah to drink is during the daytime. Practical thing also, I always find myself, even if I don't get drunk at the night of Purim, on let's say this year Thursday night, all of the dancing and singing, you might be up late, you might be tired. You don't want to fall asleep during the Megillah. Such an amazing opportunity, like I said, to internalize the idea of being able to discover Hashem and to find Hashem and to reveal Hashem in this world when He's hidden. So I stand up during the Megillah reading in the morning because I don't want to fall asleep during the Megillah. It's happened to me before. I fell asleep. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell my wife. She'll get all upset. But to stand up. So I stand up during the Megillah reading. That way I make sure that I don't fall asleep. I'm able to spiritually capture whatever I can during the day. The sages tell us is that Purim is like another Jewish holiday, biblical holiday, which one am I referring to? Yom Kippurim, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippurim, as it's called in the Torah. There's a connection between Purim and Yom Kippurim, the day like Purim. So on Purim, we know is a day of tremendously powerful tefillah, when we could dive into Hashem and we can feel so close to Hashem and we can cleanse ourselves so much through our tefillah and do so much tshuva. That power is available on Purim as well. So daven in the morning of Purim really hard, completely purify yourself, just like you would on Yom Kippur. Okay, davening's over. We're beginning our day, Friday day. Different things that we could do. Number one. So there's a concept called, this is not an obligation, this is an idea, called Kol HaPoshet Yad Nosnin Lo. That any person who puts out their hand to ask for some money, give them something. 10 agurot, one little coin. This is based on the idea that just like Hashem provided for the Jewish people who opened their hands to Purim, to every single Jew, we want to mimic that by also giving to anybody who asks. And the more that we do that, the more that Hashem will open up His resources to our open hands. If we ask for anything on Purim in our tefillahs, we will hopefully have the merit of Hashem answering us the more that we're able to give. So practically speaking, what does this mean? There are a lot of people that will prepare a lot of coins before Purim so that they have what to give. Anybody who asks, it's a beautiful minhag, it's not an obligation, but it's definitely something that you could tap into. All right, eating. We're going to eat, try to find some hamantashen. Eating hamantashen is not an obligation. It's not a mitzvah. It's a beautiful tradition. Hamantashen. Oh, there we go. Justin, hold up a hamantashen in the back. There you go. We got a nice triangle thing with sweet filling. That's the definition of a hamantashen. Okay? Why is it called hamantashen? There are those that say Haman had a triangle hat. Someone said he has pointy ears. I don't know exactly why it represents Haman. There's other explanations also. But the point is as follows. That the depth of this tradition is that when we eat the hamantashen, we're taking Haman and we destroy him. We have a mitzvah to destroy Amalek, evil in this world. Haman represents absolute evil. We take a representation of Haman and we devour it and we destroy it because we have a mitzvah to destroy Amalek and destroy Haman. The question, therefore, is, then why don't we take the hamantashen and burn it? Why are we eating it? We should burn it. We should destroy it. We should jump on it. So the answer is profound. And this I find, this week, I happen to, be dealing with like a very, a challenging issue, trying to help a person, a guy who's married, works something out. It's a difficult situation. I'm trying very hard to help him and to work with him. And my wife was like, this week you've been the most amazing husband. Why? It's because I've been trying so hard to help and to teach someone to get rid of some negative traits that are coming up in his marriage and to speak this way and to do this. So because I'm working so hard to help get rid of these bad things from someone else, it has a tremendous impact on me. When we invest in destroying evil from this world, when we're teaching people to stop not believing, when we're teaching people to not have bad midos, when we're destroying Amalek, when we're destroying Haman, it sustains us. It gives us sustenance. It builds us. And this you see so much All people that have gone into outreach, into sharing, into building others, it's not just to help other people, it helps themselves as well. And that's the idea of eating hamantashen, getting sustained through eradicating evil in this world. Next, the mitzvah of shalach manos. So you've already heard what you have to do, I hope, about giving food to people, but how to perform it in a spiritual way. Number one, try to think about people who will find it particularly meaningful that you thought about them, that you gave them a shalach manos. And try to anticipate who would really appreciate it, and then do a thing better. Don't just give that guy shalach manos. Write a note. Write out some beautiful thoughts, tremendous compliments, share some meaningful words. That's one way to do shalach manos in a very, very powerful way. Take time to write that note. Also, maybe think of not just people who need people to think about them, but maybe think of people in your own life that maybe you've hurt your relationship with, maybe you did some things wrong to them, maybe you've hurt them in the past. And by giving them a shalach manos specifically, you can, and maybe even writing a nice note, you could start to make amends. You could start to restore that relationship. Or if it's even someone that has hurt you before, maybe your gesture of shalach manos and giving it to him with a nice note could somehow start a paradigm shift where he might then be able to find the awareness that, I really need to apologize to that guy and come to you and to rebuild relationships. Use shalach manos as a way to build people and to rebuild relationships. Before you give the shalach manos, it's a good idea to say to yourself in your own words a small tefillah, that Hashem should help me through the shalach manos, whatever your kavanah is, to help this guy, be built up and to feel better about himself, to help restore my relationship with that person, to help restore my, relationship with that person. Have that in mind. Say a little tefillah in your own words yourself before you actually perform the mitzvah. Matanos levyonim, giving the monetary gifts to the poor. This is not just giving them a little coin, but to give a significant amount of money to a person that they could actually buy some food with for their Purim Suda, an Evyon, just on a practical thing, hopefully I've already mentioned. Basically all the rabbis over here can help you with that mitzvah. If you need a way to perform the mitzvah, you could give the money in advance, today, tomorrow, to one of your rabbis and ask him to be your messenger to make sure that this gets to a poor person on the Purim day, on Friday. The Rambam says it's great for a person to give as much matanos avyonim, as much monetary gifts to the poor and destitute on Purim as possible. More important than the money he invests in his costume, more important than the money he invests in his feast, more important even than the money that he invests in giving the food gifts to somebody else. Why? She'ein simcha gedola mufura. There's no greater and more glorified simcha, joy, than to bring simcha, joy, to people that are really destitute and really poor. And why? And when a person does this and he brings simcha to those that are destitute, he's domeh l'shechina. He's like Hashem, just like Hashem, who restored hope and joy to the people of Shushan during the time of the Purim story when they were completely hopeless and completely desperate. When we take care and bring simcha to destitute people by giving them gifts on Purim, we are being like Hashem, and we're able to open up those reservoirs of Hashem's salvation as well. Just to appreciate why it's special about giving tzedakah, charity, specifically on Purim, because on Purim, everyone is accepting gifts. Normally, when you give a guy charity, he gets charity, but he feels like a poor guy. Why are you giving me? Because I'm a poor guy. But on Purim, everyone's giving to everybody. Because everyone's giving those shalach manos, those packages. I remember one year someone asked me to deliver to a specific poor person money. So how did I do it? I disguised it as a shalach manos. I made a whole thing looking like a shalach manos thing, and I put the money in there, and I handed it over. The guy felt like he was getting and obviously I made sure afterwards to check and make sure that he looked inside. Sometimes you get a shalach manos, and then you're like, oh, I already have a shalach manos, so then you go and give it to the next person. So I was terrified after I got back home, oh no, what if that happens and the guy takes this whole bag of money and then gives it to someone else for shalach manos? Bottom line is, before giving the matanos of Yonim, you should have this in mind also. Make a tefillah that Hashem should help me to be able to restore hope to people's lives, to be able to be just like the Shechina, and that's the mitzvah of Matanos of Yonim. Purim afternoon is mincha, so remember to schedule it in. Make a plan to dive in on Purim afternoon. You have so many mitzvahs, so many things to do, especially on Friday. It could easily get missed and easily forgotten about, so try to make sure to schedule it in. And like I said, it's a big idea to ask for things, to beg for things. It's like Yom Kippur to completely daven and purify yourself. Okay, now the Purim feast. This is big. Purim feast. So I think I was told that other people spoke about drinking on Purim, so that I'm not going to speak about, but I'm just going to speak about the feast itself, even if no one was drinking on Purim, how to experience the feast. So for me, the feast is a time to really bring out a couple of the Purim themes in a big way. Number one, I already mentioned the idea of that Purim is a day of Kabbalah Satorah Me'ava, accepting the Torah out of love. So during the feast and during the joy is an opportunity for people to share how much they can feel in love with Hashem, how much they want to accept the Torah, maybe a certain mitzvah that previously, a certain act that they didn't used to do, that now they want to accept upon themselves out of a place of love and out of a place of reaching for Hashem. A great time to do that and celebrate that is at the Purim feast. Next, the Purim feast is a celebration of the eradication of Amalek. We're going to eat our hamantashen for dessert at the feast. Amalek is the power of Safek. The Amalek, Ayin, Mem, Lamed, Kuf is the gematria numerical value of 240. 240 is the same numerical value as the word Safek, which means doubt. Amalek is the power in this world that brings doubt. Brings doubt about Hashem's existence, brings doubt about our own understanding of ourselves, who we are we physical or are we spiritual? What's our purpose in this world? To make money or to learn Torah and do mitzvahs? What's our mission? Do we even have a mission? Is there a purpose? So this is the doubt that Amalek brings into this world. So a powerful thing at the Purim Su'uda is to celebrate a personal moment of clarity in any of these areas. At a moment where you feel particularly clear about your emunah, or particularly clear about who you are, about what you want to do, where you want to go, what you want to accomplish. When you have those moments of clarity, share them at your Purim feast as a eradicating Safek moment, and celebrate that all together with that moment of clarity that is unique to Purim. Another powerful way to experience the Purim Suda is with the concept, we started talking about it on Shabbos a little bit, of vinafochu, of things flipping, of the idea of Purim, that even all the bad turns out to good, that when it seems like Hashem's presence isn't there, it really is there. Everyone should spend time between now and Friday. Try to think about the things in your life that you thought were bad, but really were good. You thought were going to be to your disadvantage, but ended up being to your advantage. A time in your life where you thought God was so far and not here at all, and then you see that He's really there the whole time. Everyone has moments of that, aspects of that in your life, but we forget about them. Think about them, find them, go back and find those moments and share them at the Purim feast. Allow others to share your v'nahafochu moment, your moments in your life where you experience the Purim concept that all bad is really good. Achdus. Achdus is a very big theme of Purim, unity, togetherness, and love amongst all Jews. The Purim Suda, especially if a person's drinking, is an excellent time for a person to kind of shed grudges, for a person to drop negative feelings, and to really try to choose someone in your life that maybe you have a grudge against, maybe you have a difficult time loving and embracing and get that clarity at the Purim Suda that, you know what, deep down I know I really need to love this person. I really need to accept this person. I really need to let this person in and drop those barriers. You can accomplish a lot in changing that at the Purim Suda. The last way I believe I'm going to mention about experiencing spiritually the Purim feast is, like we said before, Purim is like Yom Kippur. Now in Yom Kippur we don't feast, we actually fast. But the Purim feast is like the opposite part of that coin. Purim and Yom Kippur together form like one holiday. And the feast of Purim is like the feast of Yom Kippur. It's the tshuva and purity that happens on Yom Kippur at the Purim feast. So at the Purim feast, to have a time where you daven and you cleanse yourself and you do tshuva, the tshuva of Yom Kippur, but in a different way through feasting and not through fasting, that's also a very powerful spiritual component of Purim. So you should take a moment at your Suda to like have a Yom Kippur moment. Tshuva, purification, davening to Hashem like crazy should be at your Purim feast as well. For those who are drunk, benching at the Purim Suda should be with lots of kavanah, and hopefully will fill your benching with so much energy that it'll carry over to your benching through the entire year. What? Usually it's before. Most people's, again, this year is a little bit different because Friday, some people end their meals earlier, so it could be you'll be able to find a mincha right before Shabbos, very likely, this year. But I'm going to err on the side of caution personally and make sure to daven mincha like before my Purim feast. And for those who are coming to me, I'll give you some instructions on how you can do that also. Mariv. So you should just know it's okay to daven Mariv on Purim or after Purim while you're drunk, but not if you're too drunk. If you're too drunk, you're not supposed to daven. The definition for that is that if a person's able to at least like compose themselves, that if someone important came into the room, even if they're like, a little happy and giddy, but they're able to compose themselves and come off as like a normal, sane person, so then you're not too drunk. So if you could do that, you could also stand before Hashem after Purim and daven Mariv. So even if you're tipsy, that's okay. If you're too drunk, that's not okay. If you're a little tipsy, it could actually be a very, very powerful Mariv. So that could be after Purim. Okay, I want to conclude with the following idea. It's kind of like costumes, but now we're talking about like kind of taking off costumes. I think one of the messages of costumes on Purim is the idea that, so much time through the regular year, we are disguising ourselves. We're living for other people. We're putting on facades to try to present ourselves in a way so that people accept us, so that people respect us, but it's not really us. Most of the year we wear masks. And it's a hard time to really drop those masks and really be genuine about who we are. So Purim, we actually put on masks. And at some time over Purim, you should give yourself a moment where you're actually going to consciously, with kavanah, take off your mask. Take off that costume. And remind yourself that the rest of the year as well, I want to shed my mask. I want to be who I really am. I don't want to continue to pretend to be a person just for the sake of other people, worrying about what other people are going to say, whether people are going to accept me or not, whether people are going to respect me or not. I just want to be real, who I am. I want to shed that mask. I want to stop having to disguise myself. And here's the amazing thing. Queen Esther was no different than that. When she was in the castle of the king, so she was hiding her identity. She was wearing a mask. She was hiding her Jewishness. And Mordechai came to her and said, "Listen, Esther, you have a purpose. You have a purpose. You have a purpose to save the entire Jewish people. And how are you going to achieve that purpose? If you have the courage to take off your mask, to reveal your true identity before Achashverosh, you will not just redeem yourself, you will redeem the entire Jewish people." And she did. The last message I would like to leave you with is towards the end of Purim. Reveal your identity. Take off your mask and realize that when you take off your mask and you allow yourself to really be who you really are, and to stop living for others, stop putting on a facade just to gain other people's approval, just to gain other people's acceptance and respect, you will not only redeem yourself, but you have the power of realizing who you really are and redeeming and saving the entire Jewish people, just like Queen Esther when she took off her mask. Hashem should help us that this Purim should be amazingly elevated. We should be able to grow and to elevate ourselves beyond our wildest dreams. And in Mirza Hashem, when we leave this Purim and take off our costumes, we're able to reveal our true selves and have a tremendous impact on our lives and the lives of the entire Jewish people.